Hi, I'd like to welcome you to the Beachie Creek Fire Community Update. This is brought to you by the Unified Command of the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office and Northwest Regional Team 13. We've brought together updates on the fire, as well as updates from our cooperators and partners that are working on this fire throughout the area. We hope to answer any questions that you have on the latest status of this fire. If we don't get to your questions in this update, please reach out via our phone line or in the comment section so we can get back to you as soon as possible.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Spencer, and I am the Planning Operations Trainee for Northwest Team 13. And I'm going to give you an operational briefing, a little bit of the history of where we've been with this fire, the Beachie Creek Fire, and where we are currently engaging on the Beachie Creek Fire. I'm going to take you back a little bit in time. When we first took over this fire, it was approximately 50 to 100 acres at that time. We were asked and tasked by the local agency to come in and set up a long-term strategic plan. That plan had been developed by the NEMO team that had been asked by the agency to come in and set up a plan. They timed out, and then we came in and took over for the next 2 weeks was our duration. And so what I'm about to give you is what transpired during the last 10 days of that 2 weeks, and we still have a few more days here. When we started to get engaged on this fire had already been visited by smoke jumpers, rappellers, and hotshot crew about trying to engage it direct. They all turned it down due to the steep, rugged terrain and the inaccessibility and the difficulty traveling through the fuels that were on the ground. So when we took it over, our footprint for control lines went a little bit farther outside of that footprint of the fire. We started to set up our plan and started to engage on some of the road systems in that area outside of the fire so that we could meet that fire as it moved. We were told by the weather forecasters that we were going to have an east wind event showing up on Monday, September the 7th. So we prepared for that wind event, and that wind event did show up, and it took our fire that was currently at around 450 acres, and it stood it up. And what that means is it became very aggressive and started moving on us. As it did, we had to disengage our resources because the wind event brought winds up on the fire surface up to 20 miles to 30 miles an hour with gusts starting up towards 40 to 50 miles an hour. So we took our resources, moved them all to the town of Gates where our incident command post was. At that time, while we were there, the winds became even more and increased more. And as a result, we started getting fires around the town of Gates. That was due to trees falling on power lines and power lines arcing, etc. And our incident command post started on fire. We had to evacuate and move all of our resources west out of the town of Gates. All of those multiple starts that started in that area became large conflagrations, and that means they started growing together. As they did, they started to move from the Highway 22 corridor northward and westward at a rapid rate. So those fires really took off. Back here, the Beachie Creek Fire was growing also, and it was taking off, but they had not joined at that time. We had two separate fires developing now as a result of that wind event. The movement of this fire was so rapid that in 2 days, from September 7th to September 9th, the fire grew from the 450 acres that I told you about to over 132,000. For that fire to move in this terrain, the steepness of it, and the fuel type of heavy timber, in my career of 40 years of fighting fire, that was unprecedented to me. I'd never seen it before. It moved more rapid than I'd ever seen in these conditions ever. So also we had other fires to the north breaking out during that time, and we had the riverside fire breaking out. Down here, the original fire called the Mackenzie River Fire, which now has a different name, it broke out. We also had the Lion's Head fire that was to the east of us that it had started prior to our fire. It got up and came roaring towards our fire. And as you can see on the map, they actually merged and ran into each other. These two fires were heading towards each other also. And the one down here was quite a ways away and hasn't affected our fire. What happened during those 2 days, the wind event put down hundreds and hundreds of trees along the Highway 22 corridor. It also put it down into the Elkhorn Valley corridor off the North Fork Road. We had to pull back to the town of Staten as a team, over 300 of us, and then we had to evacuate Staten because the fire was encroaching upon the outskirts of Staten. We had to go to Salem, and that is currently where we are now. So that movement forced us to have to really get out and reestablish ourselves as an incident command team. We lost a lot of our equipment in the town of Gates. We had personal items, personal sleeping items. We had the camp itself get destroyed, and we lost a lot of our camp stuff that supported our team and firefighters. So we had to reestablish ourselves out here in the town of Salem. Our team chose to stay, even though we were asked if we would like to leave and have another team come in. We chose to stay and re-engage. So let me take you to where we are currently. We are currently now engaged in the western perimeter of this fire, and when we first re-engaged on it, all the evac levels in the surrounding communities had to be established because we did not have a foothold on it yet. And so the way that this fire ran forced our hand at setting the evac levels that we did so that we did not put others in harm's way. We also had to pay attention to this fire to the north because as these two fires continued to grow together, our weather forecasters thought that these two were going to come together and start a condition called a plume-dominated fire. And it actually started, and what that means was the energy from these two fires come together such that it creates a massive smoke column above the fires, and when it does, it creates its own weather. So there was a great concern that they would grow together, and then when it creates its own weather, it creates its own winds. And with the winds that we had that were existing on that second day, we had to put evac levels farther out into the metropolitan areas because the energy from these two would force this thing to continue to move in a northwesterly direction. So Clackamas would have been affected county along with Marion County down here to the west. And so those evac levels were established for that purpose. Now we got a change in the weather, and things have since moderated such that we got a marine push that came in and started raising our humidities and lowering our temperatures, which started to subdue the perimeter of our fire such that we could engage it directly instead of indirectly, and we could start putting in control lines along the western perimeter and then also along the southern perimeter down here on the Highway 22 corridor. We are currently doing that. We have been involved in doing that for the last 2 days, fully engaged. Because of our partners of ODF and the State Fire Marshal's Office, we have been throwing a lot of resources out here, and we've had a lot of help from our local citizens in the area, and they have been providing us, not that they're providing to us, but they're providing us assistance in that they're going out and doing control line work themselves, separate from us, but it's helping us to get a complete line around this western flank of the fire. And then once those are completed, then we're hoping to start our mop-up and securing this perimeter in case we have any change in the weather, which would cause our fire behavior to increase. The only area that is currently very active on our fire is our southeast corner of the fire, and that's Division Whiskey. And we have an area that is starting to get higher back into elevation such that it's getting above what we call our inversion or our smoke layer, and it's mixing with fresh air, and so this perimeter has been a lot more active. We currently have resources engaged in putting indirect fire line out here away from the fire so they have time to meet it as it moves. There's been a lot of cooperation between the state, the BLM, and the Weyerhaeuser Corporation on coordination with all resources to try and work together to get a line in around this division whiskey. So overall, we've been able to reduce the evacuation levels. We're starting to let people move back into their homes. We're starting to get the power infrastructure and utilities all back in to reassess, and we're trying to get things back to normal for folks back out here, but still up against the fire perimeter because we still haven't completed our lines. We're having to keep our evacuation levels still a little bit higher.
Hello, I'm Les Hallman. I'm Incident Commander with the Oregon State Fire Marshal Green Team. First and foremost, I just want the community surrounding the Santiam Canyon to know our thoughts and prayers are with you. We recognize the loss that your communities are going through, and we're here doing our best to support this incident, and just want you to know up front, we're as devastated as you are. Let me explain to you a little bit why we're here and how we operate. The Oregon State Fire Marshal incident management teams come in situations where a conflagration act has been declared. A conflagration act is done by the governor, and it's when local fire departments recognize that the incident occurring is beyond the ability for them to handle, and they ask for help from the state to bring in outside resources. I love to tell people that conflagration act is literally neighbors helping neighbors. What that does is it brings firefighters and fire equipment from agencies around the state to help whatever community is having the crisis. Unfortunately, in this crisis, there were so many crises happening throughout the state of Oregon, our resources were overwhelmed. We recognized what was happening in Santiam Canyon. We responded as quickly as we could, and we responded with as many resources that were available at the time. I have to tell you, your local fire departments, your local fire districts, your local fire chiefs and firefighters did an incredible job. They are the true heroes of this incident, along with your first responders and law enforcement officers that were involved. There are so many people that helped through this incident that we just played a very, very minor role. And our role as an incident management team is just to kind of come in and help organize everything that's going on. So we focus on protecting structures. When we get here, we integrate our team in what we call unified command, and on this day we did it with the Northwest Team 13. Their focus is the wildland part of the fire and the wildland firefighters. So our teams work hand in hand, their focus on the wildland side and our focus on the structural protection. We've brought in with us on this fire 6 task forces throughout the state. 2 of those task forces actually came from within your own county, Marion County. Again, these are fire chiefs and fire departments loaning their equipment and their firefighters to help you with your incidents. We have over 80 firefighters from the local departments that are helping with this. The departments on scene came from Lynn County, Clatsop County, and Benton County, again, along with the departments here in Marion County. We're very proud of the work that's being done. We could not have been successful in the work that's being done without the help of your local firefighters, your local fire chiefs, and again, those many, many first responders that are out there doing incredible work that they're doing. I'm happy to report we're on Monday. We've come a long ways 1 week later after the incident occurred, and we're seeing great improvement on the fire line. I believe you and your communities, other than the smoke, are seeing great improvement. We're getting what we call pinpoint protection on your structures involved. The firefighters are working around your houses and mopping them up. We're making sure there's no hot spots, and that work is tedious and hard work, and I will tell you that work's going to go on for a few more days. The major movement of the fire has stopped. The weather is cooperating with us. As long as we have the weather that's at place right now, we will be able to get this fire taken care of. But again, it's going to take several more days. We're working very closely with the sheriff and getting evacuation levels up and getting you back in your homes as soon as it's safe to do so. When we make those decisions, it's a combination of keeping you, the community, safe, as well as the first responders that are working in there safe. Fortunately, through this incident, we were able to bring in some federal partners. It typically takes them a little while to get there, but we have, starting today, 2 urban search and rescue teams, one from Washington and one from Nevada, that are here today. and they have the unpleasant task of now going through and looking at any of these structures and looking for any victims we may be missing. I'm pleased to say the number of victims is not as high as we thought. We're still evaluating that. We're still looking for any that are out there lost. And again, I'm optimistic that the numbers are not going to be as high as we originally thought, but we are still very, very saddened because we know as of today there are 4 confirmed victims. I'm going to end this just by saying our hearts and prayers again are with you and your community and what you're going through. We're going to get through this together. And again, we couldn't have done it without the incredible support of the local fire departments and the first responders and you as the citizens who are helping us get through this crisis together. Oregon's going to get through this. It's a big event. It's a historical event. And we're going to come together like Oregonians do, and we're going to get through this. Thank you for your support.
Hi, Jim Treewiley here, Marion County Fire Defense Board Chief, representing all fire departments and fire districts throughout Marion County. Since the big event that took place on Monday evening, all of our local fire agencies, districts, firefighters have been actively involved from that point still to this date. On Monday, there were several rescues that took place, continuing into Tuesday, extinguishing fires, and then days on into now, still out mopping up hot spots, taking surveys, and still protecting the communities. These are the same people that live in the communities. They've also lost homes themselves, but because of the type of people they are, they're still out on the lines protecting their communities. One other thing that's very well worth mentioning and has just really been a tremendous boost to morale to the firefighters out there doing stuff is the community outpour. In all of my 30 years of doing this, I've never experienced anything like what I've seen happen across this entire county, and I'm sure it's happened everywhere else, but what I've personally seen myself is just amazing. Everything from meals to supplies to people wanting to sign up to help. The community outreach and support has been amazing. So we need to send a big thank you out to our community for supporting our firefighters and our communities. Thank you, thank you, thank you from me.
Hi, I'm Joe Cast. I'm the Marion County Sheriff, and we wanted to come here today and talk a little bit about what we've been dealing with up the canyon and kind of give you an update on where we stand today.
Hello, I'm Jim Yana. I'm the Linn County Sheriff. Where we're at is we all got the call Monday night of a fire approaching our communities on both sides of the river. We were immediately called to evacuate citizens from Gates, and then it trickled down to Mill City, and then to Lyons Mahama. And when that call came in on both sides of the river, we got resources up there as quickly as possible and started making that happen in an orderly fashion as best we could.
We've spent the week making sure that we're keeping that life and safety as our priority up in that area. And in addition, now we're to a point where the fire is being, suppressed in a lot of areas. There are still a lot of dangers and risks up there. There are trees falling on the highway and trees and boulders and things like that falling on other side roads as well. So we're working with ODOT and the Public Works Departments of both Marion County and Linn County to try to get those roads cleared up and make it safe, and also get those trees cleared out to make it safe so that we can get residents back into the communities up there.
And what exemplifies that has occurred to this afternoon is one of our road crews was up there working and a tree fell on one of our workers and injured him. That's kind of the dangers that we're facing, and that's what we're trying to prevent for all our citizens. So when that day comes, when we do get to come back to your community, the roads are safe, and the sidewalks are safe and those things. So we're taking every precaution to make sure that the community is safe before everybody gets to come home. And we know that you want to go home.
And while this is going on, our search and rescue teams, both at Linn County and at Marion County, are also trying to find ways to access any areas that we need to check on houses, check on potentially persons that have not called in or reported into families. And so we're still continuing to do those things. I know that last week when we were doing that, we started in a couple of places and had to come back out. It was too dangerous and too risky to go in. Those operations will continue throughout any other things that are going on. We will always continue to do that for the life and safety of what we're dealing with out here.
If you do have family or friends that are unaccounted for, please call the Lynn County Sheriff's Office at 541-967-3911. We'll create a call and we'll see what we can do to locate that family member or friend.
And for Marion County, for folks that are unaccounted for that could possibly be in that area, the phone number is 503-588-5032 to report those so that we can get those looked into as well.
And finally for me is I just want to thank the community for your patience and your work through all of this. There's been a lot of people behind the scenes volunteering their time, donating equipment, supplies, food, all this stuff to people who have been displaced through this, and we cannot thank you enough, because without community it's really not a place that we can call home. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. Stick with us and we'll get through this together.
And at the Marion County Sheriff's Office, we feel the same. The community has been really good and has been fantastic to work with. We appreciate all the support, and we're here. We're going to help get this situation back to where we can get into the communities. We just want to do it as safe as we can. Please be patient and help us work through this together. Together we will all be able to get through this and pull this community back together again.
My name is Ryan Engel. I'm a road operations supervisor with Marion County Public Works. As of late, we have been working closely with our Marion County Sheriff's Office, helping provide access into affected areas for their search and rescue efforts. We've also been getting a lot of preparation done, getting our tools and our equipment prepared for when we're able to move back in and start taking our road system back. We have our Emergency Operations Center fired up, and we're working closely with them. They help provide us know where the needs are and task us with things that we can do to help get our communities recovered. It's a big collaborative effort. It takes everybody working together. We're all doing what we can to get the road system back open, safe and passable, and get our communities back and get people back to where they'd like to be.
I'm Gabriela Goldfarb, Manager for Environmental Public Health at the Oregon Health Authority. Based on Monday morning's smoke coordination call with weather, air quality, fire, and health agencies, people affected by the Beachie Creek Fire, along with the rest of the state, won't see relief from harmful air quality until closer to the weekend. As a result, the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality extended the current air quality advisor through Thursday. Even in some places where there may be limited improvement at times, that just means dropping from one bad air category to the next worst air category. We're seeing that play out with health impacts to people in our communities. 10% of all emergency room visits across the state are for asthma-like symptoms. While everyone can experience symptoms of smoke exposure, susceptible populations such as pregnant women, children, the elderly, and people with heart or respiratory conditions are at higher risk, as are people who work and exert themselves outdoors. When smoke does trigger a serious health effect, it will usually show up within a few days of exposure, but some people might experience effects up to a week or two after exposure ends. The messages remain the same: stay inside and follow recommendations for making cleaner air spaces in your work or home. You can find that information by visiting wildfire.oregon.gov. Next, I want to speak to smoke and COVID. There is some overlap between COVID-19 and wildfire smoke symptoms, such as cough, difficulty breathing, and headaches. But smoke impacts don't typically include fever, chills, or diarrhea. If you have these symptoms, use the CDC's online COVID-19 self-checker to see whether you should contact your healthcare provider. Finally, we want to share information about staying safe in burned areas. OHA collaborated with the Department of Environmental Quality and Oregon OSHA to pull together information for people once local officials allow you to return to burned areas to protect you from hazardous materials and injury. You can also find that information on wildfire.oregon.gov. And finally, our hearts go out to you in Marion County and all of our community members across the state who are facing really wrenching circumstances. All of Oregon stands with you. Thank you.
Randy Johnson, Incident Commander Trainee on the Lions Head Fire. Giving you an update on Lions Head as it pertains to where we've grown together with Beachie and the impacts specifically on the western flank of Lions Head and the Detroit area. So we continue to work in that area with OSFM resources, doing structure assessments and damage assessments, identifying what has been lost and where structures are still intact, continuing to provide point protection in that area. The fire activity has decreased substantially, but there's still opportunities for our resources to be in there. Again, providing point protection, working around individual structures, individual improvements to continue to protect those structures that remain in Detroit. Understanding that the Lions Head fire, as it grew together with Beachie a few days back, had a significant impact on the Detroit area, resulting in the need for evacuations and folks being displaced. We continue to maintain access egress routes for the firefighters in and out of there so that we have access to keep an eye on that part of the incident. But again, the fire activity has been very diminished on the western flank of the Lions Head fire. The activity that we have been talking about and focused on in our briefings the last couple days on Lions Head has been the northeast flank, where it continues to grow. Again, overnight, significant growth on that flank of the fire. Although within the lines that we had put in place and projected where we would want to put some checking action and to slow that eastward and northeastward growth. We will have updated acres later today that will speak to the size of that. But yesterday we had about 20,000 acres of growth on that side. Today it's looking like a similar size of additional acres to the north and east. So while we do focus on that, we are reminded or mindful of the need of the activities that are going on in Detroit, the impacts to the community of Detroit and the folks there. We did have a good discussion with the mayor day before yesterday about what his wishes were for his community and how we could support that going forward with our resources. We are in close communication with the incident management team responsible for the Beachie fire, sharing resources back and forth as needed to ensure that we're given the proper amount of attention to where the values at risk are. So we'll continue to work towards combining our messages and ensuring that our messaging is speaking to the whole of both Lions Head and Beachie Creek and all those that are impacted.
Hi, I'm Dave Warnack, Forest Supervisor of the Willamette National Forest. These sets of fires have impacted huge swaths of our landscape, and they've impacted so many people. Our combined loss is staggering, and we're only now understanding the scope and scale of what these fires have done across our communities, across our landscapes, and how they've affected individual people across the state. The Office of the State Fire Marshal, County Sheriff's Departments, Oregon Department of Forestry, the Bureau of Land Management, private landowners, and the Forest Service have been working in unprecedented coordination fighting these fires. For these efforts, we all thank you. This coalition of partners is important now as we're fighting the fire, and it'll be important into the future as we work to recover from these devastating sets of fires. We're committed to working together now and into the future to take care of our people, to take care of our communities, and to do what we can to step forward through this thing together. Thank you.
My name is Brian Gales. I'm Incident Commander for Northwest Team 13. I'd like to thank you for joining us in this update. Today, the current fire size is roughly 188,000 acres. We do have over 550 personnel assigned. I just want to recognize the efforts of so many different entities from local, county, state, federal, and all the communities in their effort to help us stabilize this incident. It's been a monumental lift for so many people to work together, come under a unified command between the Oregon State Fire Marshal and our team, and just do our best to bring some organization to the incident. We have laid a lot of effort on the ground through your support. My heart goes out to everybody that's been involved with the incident. It's been a trying time for everybody. I just again would like to extend a thank you to all of you for your support and your care for all the communities involved. We will be transitioning with another team over the next few days. Rest assured, we're going to spend that time getting them up to speed on the incident, where the critical areas of need that still need to be addressed are, and set them up for success so that we continue to protect and provide support to all of you that live and work in the area. Thank you again for your time. I appreciate the support.